Hey you guys, it's Kat here. Hope you're well. Happy Friday. And I just wanted to plug in to you and connect with you a little bit about what has been going through my mind actually on the drive home from my client. I was just at a client meeting this morning and I was thinking to myself, why most people choose to go in business for themselves. And for us, if you're interested in this page or if you're in this group, it's likely that you are an IT person because that's who we are and that's whom we set up this group for. And you're likely either already self-employed, meaning that you are working for yourself, you've got your own corporation, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're just thinking about that step and you're plugging into this group to find out how to and what's the best method to do that. And so you're certainly in the right place to do so because that's exactly what we cover. Like if you're looking to market a different solution or like open a franchise, this is not necessarily the place you want to be because this is where we focus on, if you are an IT person, we focus on how to build a fantastic business, how to be self-employed, how to control your time, and how to control your destiny in actuality. So I guess the people that I'm talking to today are mostly going to apply to people who are self-employed already. So you may have already jumped into that contracting world and you're rah-rah, you got your contract, or maybe you're looking for your contract, but in any case, you have made that leap. And I applaud you, first of all, for doing so because it's a big deal, you guys. Like it's a big step to go on your own and leave the comforts of your employer. So first of all, big congratulations on making that decision. And secondly, really putting one step forward in front of the other to making it happen. That is absolutely amazing. And that is the absolute first step. So I applaud you for doing that. Okay, so secondly, what I want to get, I'm going to burst your bubble now because generally when we do that, we're all, oh yeah, I'm in business for myself, I'm self-employed, I've got my own company. But really, we are often deluded into thinking that we are a true business. And I mean, technically you are because you have your own corporation, you are paying taxes differently, you've got clients instead of an employer. So that all is fantastic. But really what's going through your mind is that there's not really a whole lot of difference between when you were an employee, like what you're doing, right? Like I'm talking about what you're doing, what as an employee, as you are a contractor. Chances are, if you are self-employed in this space, you're gonna hear my dog a little bit because she's wanting me to play ball right now, which I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna do that. Not now, Beatrix. Not now. I'm talking to people here, okay? Your turn afterwards. You hear her? Let me turn you around so you can see her. Ooh, do you see her? There it is. All right, now you can tell I have children because my house is an absolute mess. All right, whatever. Let's focus on you. So where was I going with this? So often I want to convey the point that often we are deluded that we are actually in business for ourselves because we've started our corporation and we've gone so far as to got a contract with a client. Yes. All right. So here's why we're deluded. We're deluded into thinking we're in business because we have all those things that we can seemingly control. But the reality of the situation is that the services you provide are still your 8 hours or 10 hours or 11 hours or however long you work for that particular client. And you may have even 2, maybe even 3 clients that you service. Cool. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't go to work, if you don't actually put in time to bill the client, your business makes nothing. All right? That is not a business. A business is where you can eventually step away from that service, that operation, and have it still make money on your behalf. Do you smell what I'm cooking? Like, that's a difference between being self-employed to actually running a business, okay? And again, like, so many of us are like, feeling so great about like, oh yeah, I'm in business for myself, I'm self-employed. Hey, I was in that boat as well. And I'm still in that boat. I'm still consulting, and so is Andy. That's cool. Like we really love what we do, but we understand that it's way more than that. And that is what I want to impress upon you. Because if you think that the be all and end all is to quit your job, start a company, and just become self-employed and contract yourself back to different organizations, you're missing the boat. That's not the be all and end all. That is just the first step. And we need to move beyond that first step in order to have a full-on business. All right, so how do we do this? The first thing is to think of yourself as a business, okay? Too many of us, and I see this every day because I work with a ton of independent consultants, independent contractors at my clients. And the thing is that they're not really thinking as a business, they're thinking as a job. You still got a job. Do you get what I'm saying? Like you're still showing up to that client, you're still performing the duties as if you would be as an employee. I don't care if you're there for 3 weeks or 3 months or 6 months or 4 years, you're still, 4 years is kind of like longer than most employees, right? But you're still performing the exact same duties as you would probably as an employee. How do I know? Because you're probably either backfilling somebody who has either left the organization, or there's some sort of gap in the organization hierarchy in which they cannot find a suitable replacement, and so they're like, no, we have to hire a contractor. We just need this person to help us fill this gap for however long it needs to be filled, and then we'll look for an employee to fill that position. All right. That's the situation that you're likely in. It could be that you're consulting on an implementation, but it's the same thing. The concept is the same. If you stop working, your business generates nothing. And that is the fundamental difference between having a successful business and being simply working as a technician. Okay? So, it could be that, okay, sorry, let me back up here. Mindset. I was talking about mindset. So I invite you to think of yourself as a business. Think of the services that you are providing as a business would, as a full-on consulting practice would. A lot of us here, if you're interested in this page or if you're in this group, you're probably a developer. And there's one thing I know about developers is that they never stop developing. So at work, they're developing applications or website or systems for their client or their employer. And at home, they're still developing, but they're developing cool apps for themselves or for this magical, bring to market. Somebody's gonna buy it later on, or it's gonna make me some money somehow. And oh yeah, I'm gonna go into business, and that itself, my friends, is absolutely the first step. You got to have that idea. And if you do, and if you're doing that, I applaud you for doing that, because so many people don't do it. They just come home, their job is done, and they do whatever they need to do, but they're not thinking of building their fortune. They're building their business. Okay. So if you're building an app, or you got an app on the side and you're coding off hours, that's amazing. I love to hear when people do that. But that's the first step. If you stop where you are at, and what I mean is that if you stop after you've developed it and you just stop, it goes nowhere. It's dead in the water. How is anybody going to buy it if, first of all, they don't know what it is, they don't know who you are, and they don't know how it benefits their life? That's the end of the story. And that's still not going to get you any further than if you were to never have quit your job and do some coding on your off hours. It's the same. It's the same, you guys. Okay, so what is that missing gap then? It's the thinking of that you are a business, that you're an entrepreneur. And the one thing, if you are going to truly think of yourself as an entrepreneur, as a solopreneur of your business, you need to know that there is, like, you are the source. You have to make everything happen. And when I say everything, I mean everything from product development to business development to marketing to administration to invoicing your clients, your finance department. That is all you guys. That is a true solopreneur. And yeah, like, you can get help with that, but without having that mindset to know that you need to do so, you are not a business. All right. So I get that most of us were trained in business school, sure, primarily in IT, or maybe you jumped into IT from, I don't know, an engineering faculty or something. Your training is probably not in marketing. And for the few people who are like, yeah, not me, I was in marketing before and I jumped into IT. Well, congrats to you, but you're still in the same boat. So listen up. In order for you to know how to do that marketing, you got to train. And the thing is that people aren't born to be salespeople. People aren't, I said it. The one word that everybody in IT is afraid of, and accounting for that matter, of in finance is afraid of, is sales. Oh my goodness, sales. I'm not a salesperson. I can't sell anything. I don't want to be. And the mere thought of picking up a phone and calling up for somebody to share your idea and hopefully buy your product just makes you shake in your boots. Hey, I'm in that same boat. But guess what? Nobody is born. Well, actually, that's not true. There are some people who are born people, okay? And if you're not one of those, it's not the end of the world, because that skill, like your skill in whatever you had learned in IT, is trainable. It's just a different programming language, you guys. And the thing is though, without having this know-how, you are never, ever going to jump to that next level to be a full-fledged business. You're not. You're either going to be always chasing one contract after the other and working through whoever you need to work through. Maybe you have a big enough network, then you could get the next contract, cool. But you're never going to be able to jump to that next step in business if you don't know how to market yourself. And that's the value. That's the value that we provide. That's the thing. That's the secret sauce that we figured out in order to level up. All right. And it's, as I said, it's trainable. So where do you find this training? Well, you can find it everywhere. All right. Like there's free information, there's paid programs, like we train it. But the fact of the matter is that you need to get yourself familiar with how to market. And I mean, a few things that we can do in order to market ourselves. And you might think, oh yeah, well, I don't really need to market myself because I've already got my resume on LinkedIn and I've got, this wide enough network that I can always find work. That's not the point, you guys. You're not thinking as a business. You're thinking as an employee. You're thinking as, well, how do I get myself to the next job? And it's all about you and how you can stay in business. That's not how a business thinks. A business, like a successful company, thinks about it. Okay, so staying in business is always in the back of, like, that's always the core intent, right? But how you go about doing this is completely different if you're a business than if you are an employee or if you're a solopreneur, if you're a contractor. The reason why I say this is because as a business, you need to think about how you are going to add value to the marketplace, to your clients, to your community, to everybody around you. And if you can't do that, if you think that, oh, the people I work with were idiots, nobody's as smart as me, they don't understand, they don't have my experience, like me, you are going to fail so miserably. And there's nothing that we can, as long as you're thinking that way, there is nothing that we can teach you because you know it all. Sorry, but that's what you're thinking. So to market yourself as a business, you first of all have to think about what it is that you can change the world. How is it that you can change the world? How is it that you can make an organization better? How is it that your app can make life easier for millions of people around the world? All right? Most of us think way too small, way too small. Most of us are always in that, I don't care what your administrative status is, if you're an employee or if you're self-employed, whatever. Most of us are still thinking, I've got a contract, or I've got a position, I've got, this stretch of time in which I'm gonna be paid for providing the service that I'm gonna be paid for on an hourly basis. That, again, is not sustainable. It's not sustainable as a business, and it's certainly not sustainable as your career. Because here's the thing, what is it? How long can you possibly do this? Like, that's the one question that I really asked myself 10 years ago. How long can I possibly be doing this? Like, eventually, I mean, you might be in your prime, or maybe you haven't even hit your prime yet, but eventually you're gonna get old. Everybody does. Nobody escapes age. And with the old comes in new technology and newer people, younger people who are in the, I don't know, like they're connecting more with the organization, or they're connecting more, they're gonna put you at a disadvantage at some point in time. If you do not continue to be relevant, if you do not continue to train to be relevant, you guys, the marketplace is gonna write you off. Do you get what I'm saying? I really hope this is so important to your careers. If I don't ever get to talk to you at any point in my life, I hope you remember this and you take this with you, because this is super important. And if you understand this is gonna make the difference between you being always afraid that you're gonna run out of work to, oh my God, I've got tons of work, and even if I take off to, for 3 weeks to Bali, I don't know why I always use Bali, but I really love Bali, my business is still gonna run. All right, so fundamental, you need to think of yourself as a business and how you add, what happens, think of this, here's a question that you need to think about. What would happen if your company was suddenly wiped off the face of the planet? How worse off would the whole entire world be because you are not here to provide them that service? Think about that for a minute. All right, so that sums up the mindset bit, all right? So if you're thinking of yourself as a business, what is the one thing that, like, think of, I'm gonna say one word here, Lego, because my kid loves Lego, and I love Lego too. But when I say Lego, what do you think of? You think of a children's toy, or an adult's toy, whoever you may be if you love Lego. You think of those little bricks, right? Now, if you think of Kleenex, what do you think of? You think of a tissue paper, right? And what do you think of when you say, what's that word? Netflix. Netflix is, obviously everybody knows, Netflix is a media company in which you can watch, you go to this Netflix site or Netflix app and you can watch TV shows, right? Those are all brands. Those are brands of obviously successful companies, but that's the key. So one of the most important things that businesses do is they build their brand. And it's more like, from our perspective, let's bring it home a little bit. From our perspective as IT people, it's more than your amazing resume, or like if you have an online profile on LinkedIn, sure, great. You might even have a logo for your company, but it never sees the light of day because you never need to use it. That is the beginning of a brand, but that is the thing that you need to build out as a business. You need to build your brand. And there are a ton of ways to build your brand, and you can waste a whole lot of time like looking for different ways to build your brand. But the fact of the matter is that you need to build your brand. And there are very, very efficient ways and most effective ways, like best practices to build your brand as IT people. Across industries, building brands are different. it's a completely different animal. If I were an ad agency, I would be building my brand very differently than if I were an engineering firm or like an IT consulting practice. Do you get what I'm saying? So number one, we got to build our brand. Number two, we got to constantly, if we are a business only flourishes when they can provide value to receiving parties. And what do I mean by receiving parties? I mean clients, organizations, people you help, okay? And that's what I mean when I say making the world a better place, like improving the lives of people around you. That's really all it boils down to, you guys. Like, we on the face of this planet are made up of nothing but people. I mean, obviously we're made up of more than people. We're made of trees and of environments, of like animals, but primarily people, right? That's what an organization is. They're a group of people organized like a well-oiled machine in order to move forward and execute the company's mission. But really, if you are changing the lives of people, that is how you are adding value to the marketplace. And so as a business, if you want to expand the number of people whose lives you are changing, or the organizations, like bunches of people that you are changing, you need to build relationships. That's the only way you can expand your clientele. That's the only way, you guys. That's the only way. You gotta build relationships, all right? And you guys are like, oh yeah, I know. But there's a difference. There's a fundamental difference between I know and I know, I grasp it, and I know, therefore I do. All right? Most of us are up here. Oh, I know. Knowing doesn't actually help you. Knowing is just that first step, but internalizing it and applying it to how this would translate in your life, and then actually doing it, is where the magic is. That's where the magic is. Okay, finally, what is the strength of your business? Like, what is the strength of your company? And this goes back to the very, very first question. If your company, if you were wiped off the face of the planet, how would the world be worse off because you were not there to either help them or provide that service that you provide? You got to think about what that is. And that, my friends, is your strength. That is your competitive advantage. And I'm using a big buzzword here. Competitive advantage is essentially what makes you so special. All right? What makes you the person to engage, or the company in which to engage, when there are multitudes of other probably more qualified individuals or companies that can provide the same thing? But what makes you so special? That is your competitive advantage. And far too few of us, virtually no one, I don't care if you're self-employed or if you've got like a business, running right now, maybe you have, I don't know, probably if you're self-employed, you're not thinking about this. And I invite you to think about this, because this is so super important. This is what's going to make or break your career as a self-employed consultant, and or leveling up to becoming that full-on business. All right. And then what we need to do is we need to capitalize on them. We need to capitalize on those strengths. And from the marketing perspective, it's telling people, because I don't care how smart you are, I don't care how great you are technically or whatever your competitive advantage is. If nobody knows about it, you guys, you have failed. You have helped nobody. All right. So the value of your company, the value of how well you are going to be paid, what your rate is going to be, is all contingent on how many people know how valuable your service is, not how great you are. You guys are all great. You guys all have amazing minds, and you're wonderful people, most of you. But if you cannot convey that value, or if people don't know what your secret sauce is out there, they're never going to be able to find you. They're just not. It's not that they don't want to find you. They just can't, because you haven't told them how fantastic you can make their lives. right? Okay, so there was one other thing I wanted to cover with you, and that is the greatest fear. My greatest fear for you is that, first of all, and that's infuriating to me, because most of us are like, oh yeah, I'm too good for marketing. I'm just going to hire it out. That's what you're thinking, right? I knew it. Because that's what I would be thinking too. But there's no shortcut, because nobody, mark my word, nobody will care more about you, about your organization, about what you provide, more so than yourself. So if you're trying to hire out to some sort of marketing, or like, a middle person. So most of us, when we are self-employed, we would, like, unless you have a vast network and you've already built those relationships before, you will work through a recruiter and to find work. And that is absolutely a viable way to find work, but that's not building your brand. That's outsourcing your marketing per se, and that's not sustainable. It's not. And especially if you don't build those relationships, it's absolutely not sustainable. So my greatest fear is that and you don't do anything about it. And I feel like that's like the fundamental fear of that everybody has, right? The biggest barrier, the biggest loss that you can experience is the opportunity cost, okay? And I know a few of you, having seen this video, are going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to Google how. And yes, you need to be able to do that, all right? You need to be resourceful and to find that information. So Google it. Yeah. Look for marketing programs. Think of ways to market your brand. First of all, build out your brand. But learn from people who are successful. I think you're a fool if you think that you can just do it all yourself all the time. That is not how a business thinks. Think of Google, think of Apple, think of all of the amazing companies in the world. Think of virtually every successful company that is out there. And it's not one person, not even Wikipedia is one person. It's like 20 people, like, albeit small, but it's more than just you guys. You gotta think, where was I going with this? I forgot. You gotta learn from people who are successful. You can't do everything yourself. That's where I was going with this. If you wanna collapse timeframes, you need to find somebody who has done this before successfully, all right? You can't just, ask the person down the street and say like, oh, how do you think I should market this? Well, they're gonna give you travel agent advice because they've never done it before. And that's what I mean by travel agent advice. They're gonna direct you in places where they've not necessarily ever been. And chances are it's not going to be successful. First of all, they have no vested interest in your success, so they don't really care. So they're going to mouth off a bunch of instructions for you, and it's up to you whether or not to follow. And if it works, great. If it's not, it's no shirt off their back. That's not the advice that you want, you guys. You want to follow. You want to find people who have been successful in this field. And it's not going to be just one person. That's what I've learned. It's going to be a plethora of people, and you need to get started. You need to find people who are successful and copy what they've done, all right? Ask them for information. Ask them to help you, all right? And here's the thing. You have to be ready to invest in your business. And yes, there's a lot of free information out there. And, there's a lot of stuff that you can find with very little cost. But you have to be ready to, when the time comes, if that program speaks to you, if you're like, oh my God, okay, so that is the training that I absolutely need. You need to be ready to be confident enough that you are worth it to be able to invest in yourself. Most people are too cheap to invest in themselves. And I think that's a huge tragedy because I remember a friend, and he was like a VP in an organization, but he would not pay $40 to get furniture shipped to his house. He would rather go and hire a truck for like $20 and grab his brother and help him spend 2 hours into, you know, picking up furniture from this whatever, I think it was like $80, okay, but whatever, but still, they would rather hire a truck for however much it was. It was definitely more than $20, but whatever. They hire a truck, go to a furniture store and bring furniture back and spend like hours doing that. They would rather do that than spend $80. Do you know what that tells me? That tells me that he knows his time, you guys, time that he will never ever get back in his life is not even worth $80. That's how much he thinks about himself. Think about that for a moment. I ask you, how much is your life worth to yourself? How much is your child's life worth to you? Because here's the thing. If you're spending time away from your family and, you know, trading time for like consulting for, I don't know, like 60, 80, 100, 150, $300, mind you, have it, right? If you're spending all that time away from your family, you're basically telling your family that they are not worth as much as that $300 per hour that you can get from providing your service to an organization that will pay you that. And that, my friends, is a huge tragedy. It makes me sad to think about this because your family should be the closest people to you. If you have children, I pity the kids whose parents would abandon them for, you know, like an $80 job. That saddens me. And I mean, I get that there's instances where you need to put food on the table and you need to do that, and that is a priority, and I get that. I totally get that. Like, I've been there before. We all have to make sacrifices for our family, but it needs to be up to a point. And this is all under the assumption that it's temporary. If you know that it is temporary, if you know that you are building a future for your children, if you are building the opportunity, if you're front-end loading the investment of time, of energy to build off an opportunity in the future in which you can spend time with them and like make an amazing life with them, then yes, it's worth it. But if you have no light at the end of the tunnel, if you're just like trading time for money, and in the end, what are you gonna get? That really makes me sad. So, okay, to wrap up, this is kind of a long live, but to wrap up, I want you to think of yourself as a business, all right? I don't care if you're an employee now or if you're a self-employed person right now. Think of yourself as a business, all right? What does that mean? That means what is your strength? What's your secret sauce, okay? How would the world be worse off if you were wiped off the face of the planet? Like Thanos, if Thanos were to snap his fingers, why would the world be better off, would be worse off without your services? You got to think about that. And you know what? I invite you to reach out and tell me about it. Okay? And I know very few of you are going to do that because you know, and there's nothing I can do to help you. If you just know and not going to do anything about it, the onus is on you. All right. So reach out. I'm here to help you. I want to help you. So, but the first step, I need you to meet me halfway. Like, I can't come out there and get you. You get what I'm saying? All right. And start building your brand. Think of what that is going to look like for you. And build relationships. But most importantly, seek mentorship. Find people who are successful, not people who think that this would work. That's not what I'm asking. Find people who have done this before and who are successful at doing it. They've got a great track record. They've been self-employed for a long time. They've been building their business for a long time. Those are the people that you want to learn from. All right. So with that, I invite you to reach out to me. I hope this video has helped you, and we will see you again. Take care. Happy Friday.